here on the YouTube live stream. So first, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson. Aye. Do we have Director Ahmed?
Not present.
Okay. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to new business, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Mary Perry Reed.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. I'd like to introduce our Director of Business Services to the board table, the virtual board table, to discuss the resolution designating depositories for school funds. And what we're requesting is that the board approve the proposed depositories for the 21-22 school year, and Director Chapanduka will describe what those are. Teruro?
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Good evening, Chair Bouchard, respected board members, and the
Excuse me just a moment, Taro. We're having a hard time hearing you, so just a moment while we get this tech aspect figured out. Thank you. Director Chapanduka, could you try speaking again just to test this out?
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so what I have here is 2 resolutions which we are presenting to the board. This is routine, something we do on a yearly basis, mostly at the beginning of the fiscal year. So the first resolution is the teaching depositories, which is our investment banking entities we work with. One when it comes to our general checking account. So we work with US Bank and the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund. We also use a number of investment depositories for different investments we undertake in as a district. We have Wells Fargo. We also use US Bancorp. We use Public Finance Management FM. We use Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund. We use Prudential Advisors. We use CBs. We use Fidelity and MetLife. Fidelity, MetLife are used for our part of our retirement plans with the 403B. CBs is used for our other post-employment benefits, trust fund, and Minnesota School Liquid Asset Fund. This is the umbrella group which actually handles all our funds as they are moving from either the federal or the state of Minnesota Department of Education. Our main entity on our general fund is US Bank. They actually do all our retail banking for the district, as well as being a custodian on most of our investment collateral. So what we have at the table is for the board to actually approve the designated depositories for fiscal year 2021-22. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chapanduka. Are there any questions from my board colleagues? I would look for a motion that the board approve the proposed depositories for the 21-22 school years as listed in the board packet.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'm sorry, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Now I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson, aye. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. And Director Chapanduka, I'll turn it back over to you for new business agenda item B.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. So the next item actually is the resolution authorizing individuals who handle electronic funds, transfers, and investments on behalf of the board. Currently, it's me, Kairo Chapinduga, is Director of Business Services, as well as Mr. Jason Stegman, who is our controller. And we also have two the backup within the business services team who actually help in handling any transfers between our custodial banking systems as well as our retail banking. So this resolution is actually giving authority to me as the Director of Business Services and Mr. Jason Stegman as the controller to handle any transfers and for investments and any other electronic funds on behalf of the board and the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chapanduka. Are there any questions for Director Chapanduka? I would look for a motion that the board adopt the proposed resolution in the board packet authorizing the use of electronic fund transfers and investments.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson, aye. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye. Thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to agenda item C, and we are still going to hear from Director Chapanduka on this for the designation of our official district newspaper.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. Again, this is Rochen. So we use the Hopkins, Minnetonka, and Golden Valley Sun publications for any legal notices the district has to output to the public. So, for example, any of the board minutes are actually published through the Sun publications, as well as any of our requests for proposal, our official publications, and any bids for our purchasing and procurement, and any other legal notices which are required by either state statute to be published in the system or our community. And this resolution is actually designating the Hopkins, Minnetonka, and Golden Valley Sun Sailor and Sun Post to be the official publication for the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chapanduka. Any questions from my board colleagues?
Chair Bouchard?
Yes, Vice Chair Andreessen.
I just had a question about in section C. It says that they're free nearly every household.
Get out of the Google Meet.
Yeah, exit out completely.
And I believe that has changed. The publication is still free, but they don't deliver to every household any longer without subscribing. So I don't know if we need to change that part.
Thank you, Director Anderson. That's something I'll have to maybe check on that. I wasn't really sure as far as that piece getting changed. I usually reach out to the Sun Sailor before so that we can get a better understanding of any rate increases or any changes in some of their policies and procedures. So they didn't communicate any of that to us. So I'll need to make some follow-up on that.
Yeah, I can confirm that as well. in order to receive it, I had to subscribe. It's still free, but
Thank
it's
you.
an opt-in as opposed to something that goes to everyone.
Is there an alternative publication that you'd like us to consider?
No, I just wanted to make sure that our resolution was accurate, that's all.
So what we'll be voting on is just the designation of the paper. So it's the background information that we needed clarification on, so it won't change the wording of the recommendation. Just a procedural note. Any other questions? Okay, I would look for a motion that the board designate the Hopkins, Minnetonka, and Golden Valley Sun Sailor, Sun Post publications as the official newspapers of the Hopkins Public Schools for the 21-22 school year.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Kahn.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson. Aye. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to Agenda Item D, and we'll invite Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot to the table.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is the appointment of legal firm for the district. This is outside counsel. General counsel is identified. Rates are the same that we have for the present year. If there are any needs that go beyond the expertise within general counsel, we look towards specific recommendation from general counsel, and at their recommendation would pursue any additional expertise with specifically designated firms.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot. Any questions from my board colleagues?
Chair Bouchard,
Yes, Director Cool.
does this include HR type issues?
Any general, yes. So any kind of general employment law concerns also would be included.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, personally, I've been pleased with their services in the past. They've been really helpful, especially as we've grappled with some procedural issues during COVID. And so happy to hear we'll be continuing with their services. So I would look for a motion that reflects the following: that the board approve utilization of the legal services as provided through Ratwick, Rozak, and Maloney at hourly rates as noted above for the 21-22 school year, dependent upon the services required, and that the board allow district administration the discretion for the 21-22 school year to seek other legal counsel and/or utilize a licensed attorney when there is a need to acquire special expertise. I would look for a motion to that effect.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Kahn.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson. Aye. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to Agenda Item E, review of our school board policy 253, and I'll turn it back over to Assistant Superintendent Lightfoot.
Certainly. This matter comes before you regarding the compensation established with the organizational meeting at the start of this year. It is through this policy that the board makes its determination for the compensation that is associated with the roles and responsibilities of the board members. The policy has been presented to you. The background information contains previous rates. You will note that in August of 2020, there was a 0% increase in compensation. Previous years have considered a 2% increase. So with that, it is certainly within the board's discussion this evening to give guidance and to make the decision on how we should proceed moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Lightfoot? have some additional background information to share. So we did set this year's district budget generally assuming a 3% cost of living adjustment increase, and that's across the board. So we do have room within our budget to increase board compensation. The reason we decided not to last August was because we were still going through a budget restructuring process, and the decision that we made last August to freeze our pay as board members was the result of a decision that we had made previously during our budget conversation for that year. And so just, a few other contextual pieces to note that in the past, I have advocated for an increase because I think it allows people from various economic backgrounds an opportunity to serve on the board. As I've been trying to recruit candidates for this year's election, I think we often joke about, well, nobody does it for the pay, right? And the lack of pay is a barrier for some people to access this opportunity. So I'm thinking of folks who use the board stipend to pay for childcare, for transportation, for other related expenses related to board work. And so that's one element to consider. We are right in line with other districts in the metro area in terms of our current rate of compensation. St. Louis Park, they're a smaller district in terms of enrollment, but they're at $6,000 for their board chair, $5,500 for their vice chair and clerk, and $5,000 for directors and members. And they 2 years ago, I'm sorry, I don't want to misspeak.
Chair Bouchard?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. There are leaders on the Google Meet who are reporting that they cannot hear anything, so we're wondering if there's a way for Mr. Wetter to help us out so that your important comments can be heard.
Thank you.
Sorry, John. All of the cabinet members are saying that they can't hear anything on the Google Meet. I'm not sure how to fix that.
It appeared that when whoever pushed the mute button again, it appeared that words are starting to come up again, so it looks like they can hear it now.
Okay. Oh, yep, they're saying they're good.
So I was providing some additional background information for the board to consider in terms of setting our compensation. Last August, when we had this conversation, we agreed upon a 0% increase, and that was because we were still in the midst of our budgeting restructuring process. And that, we completed the 2-year budgeting restructuring process that we had committed to in June. What else? In the past, I'm trying to remember everything I just said. So in the past, I have advocated for an increase for board compensation, not out of a sense of greed, but out of a sense of access for others. So, we often joke that we're not in this for the money, but the modest stipend is make or break for some members of our community who are interested in board service. And so what I mean by that is they would be using that stipend for childcare, for transportation costs, and for other costs associated with board work, driving to meet with community members, et cetera. And so, just to provide further context about where we are in comparison to neighboring districts, our current compensation is right there, in the middle. It's not an outlier by any means. I was talking with the chair of the St. Louis Park Board, and 2 years ago, they increased their board compensation for the very reasons that I stated before, that it allows more people to enter into board service should they choose. And at that time, they did a pretty large increase because they were making up for a lot of lost time. So one thing to consider is that if we adopt a 0% increase this year, that we'll want to be careful that we don't fall too far behind, what neighboring districts are compensating their board members as we think ahead, and to attracting good candidates who are really willing to put in the work and serve in future years.
Chair Bouchard,
Yes.
excellent points that you made there. As I recall, last year, we also held off on making any increase because of the uncertainties associated with the coronavirus and uncertainties regarding funding in that period. Most of those have been resolved at this point. So I would move that we make a 2% increase to the board pay this year, across the board, as it were.
So I have a motion for a 2% increase. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for a 2% increase. We also have to talk about the term life insurance, which is part of the recommendation. But at this point, let's talk about, see if there's any further discussion on the 2% increase.
Chair Bouchard.
Yes, Director Cool.
I feel very uncomfortable with some of the decisions that we had to make at the end of last year's school year, looking at the cuts that needed to be made. Although all of your points make a lot of sense, I'm very conflicted on having any increase based on the tough decisions that we needed to make last year.
I had a question, I forgot, I apologize. Does the pay come from general funds then?
It comes from our board budget.
Okay.
Chair Bouchard,
Yes.
I would just remind Director Cool, we make cuts every year. So if we were to follow that guideline, we would never do an increase in board compensation. And for the reasons that Chair Bouchard pointed out, in order to attract good candidates like yourself, I'd like to see it increase by 2%, which has historically been what we've been doing in years where there was not a financial consideration.
I think if we consider, the board budget as well, it's a very, very small part of the
Yeah.
overall district budget. And that, I said this the first time I made my comments when you couldn't hear me, but what I forgot to say the second time around is that we set this year's budget assuming a 3% cost of living adjustment across the board, which would include the board's compensation package as well.
Yeah, I would also just, point out at a very high level that this is a sub-$1,000 increase across 7 individuals. So yes, I totally agree with what you're saying, Director Cool, about, but this is, again, a very small portion when I just did the really rudimentary math. So,
Sub 1,000, did you say?
across all 7 of us, yeah.
Okay.
And I think it is also important to note that we did not get an increase the prior year.
Where that feedback's coming from.
You're not logged in, are you, Shannon?
No, she's not. So, yeah, the point being that we did not have an increase last year. So we're going off of, what our rates were in 2019.
And we also didn't do any travel. So all
True.
of that
Right.
budget went back in.
That's right. Yeah, we greatly reduced our food and travel budgets during the past year, during COVID. Well, we have a motion on the table for the 2%, so let's vote on that first. So the motion and the second is that the board increase the board's compensation by 2% for the 21-22 year. Any further discussion? I'll turn it over to you, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson, aye, and Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Next, we need to talk about term life insurance, which is part of the original recommendation. So I would look for a motion that the term life insurance in the amount of $50,000 for each board member be continued, and that the total cost of the insurance for the 7 board members is approximately $508.20. And this marks no increase from the 2021 year. So I would look for a motion to that effect.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue the $50,000 of life insurance for each board member. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen.
Aye.
Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson, aye, and Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Next, we'll move to Agenda Item F, authorization of district memberships, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Mary Perry Reed.
Thank you, Chair Bouchard. This is also an annual agenda item that pops up every year on our organizational meeting, which is the authorization of district memberships. So there are 3 district memberships in front of our board members this evening. The first is AMSD, the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. There are 41 K-12 school districts across the metropolitan area, and the board of directors is comprised of a superintendent and a school board member from each district. It is an organization that provides very important legislative support to districts, along with opportunities for superintendents to meet weekly, if necessary, as we did last year, to discuss what the changing conditions were and how we would operate as a collective in responding to COVID. So this is a really important membership. The fee is not cheap, but I do think that it is worth it. Should I go through all 3 and then vote at the end?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
The second organization is the Minnesota State High School League, which has pretty dramatically increased their fees in the last 3 years. However, we do have a responsibility to participate in this organization, as all of our district-sponsored athletics are part of the Minnesota State High School League as an organization. Our district representative for MSHSL, which is a hard acronym to say, is our athletic director, Dan Johnson, and Dr. Lightfoot also works closely with Mr. Johnson and with the organization. So I would say that is another membership that we need to have. And then third, the MSBA, the Minnesota School Boards Association, which our school board members are very familiar with. They also provide support to school boards across the state of Minnesota, whether it's onboarding new board members or putting together professional learning for school board members. They've been very helpful helping board members navigate various sort of hot topics from year to year, and so it's nice to be part of that organization as well. And so it's our recommendation that the board would authorize continued memberships in these 3 organizations.
Thank you, Dr. Mary Perry Reed. Any questions from my board colleagues? Okay, I would look for a motion that the board authorize continued memberships in AMSD, MSHSL, and MSBA for the 21-22 school year.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Thank you. Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen. Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson. Aye. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Next, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Peterson.
Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Andreessen. Aye. Director Khan.
Aye.
Director Cool.
Aye.
Director Peterson. Aye. And Chair Bouchard.
Aye, thank you, Clerk Peterson. We have 6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. This organizational meeting of the Hopkins School Board is adjourned at 6:32 p.m. We invite our community members to join us for the regular meeting of the Hopkins School Board, which will commence at 7 p.m. Thank you all.
What'd you think, girls? Really exciting.
That was faster than before.
Is it? Well, that was just part 1. Get ready for part 2.
I'm so unprepared because I didn't bring my calendar.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, we just said hi.
Thank you.
I'm gonna unmute real quick, everybody, just so that we can test. We think it's this mic that's giving a reverb, so we're gonna just double check.
This is Maddie.
Hi, Maddie and Katie.
Test 1, 2, 3,
You're gonna be a
4,
fourth grader,
5,
right?
6,
I have a daughter that's gonna be a fourth grader too.
7, 8, 9,
Remember,
10,
Zeke
11, 12,
Remember little Zeke with the
13, 14, 15.
Gordon, we saw her at the Olympics.
All right.
Watch party.
We'll conclude the test.
That's the remember, John? The dutiful, yes. They were on the phone with him, so I wonder if he's vacation or
Oh, okay.
something.
Probably.
Because, yeah, they were talking to him, I heard earlier on the phone.
Like,
Yeah.
not as bad as I'm making it seem, but it was difficult. And then senior year is just gonna be like fine. You still have to try.
Okay, we can get started. This meeting of the Hopkins School Board is called to order at 7 p.m. I'm Chair Jen Bouchard, and I'd like to welcome our community members who are here in the room with us, and also our community members who are viewing the meeting via the YouTube live stream. Since this is our first regular meeting of the school year, I'm going to ask my board colleagues to just go around the horseshoe here and introduce yourselves. We'll start with Director Cool.
Hi, my name is John Cool, and I've been on the board for a little under a year.
Hi, my name is Katie O'Shea Peterson. Been on the board for 2 years.
Steve Adams, treasurer and board director. And what is this, my 10th year? I think. So,
Hi there, Rhoda Marie Puri-Reed, superintendent. This is my 5th year.
Hi, Shannon Andreessen. I have been on the board for, this is my 2nd year.
Hi, I'm Tanya Khan, and this is my 2nd year serving.
And we're so excited to have 2 of our student board representatives with us this evening.
Hi, my name is Imani Karamungi. I'm a senior cohort coordinator this year.
I am Kimora Searles, and I am a junior representative this school year.
Thank you all so much. So we'll start with open agenda, and our first agenda item under open agenda is public comment. And so I'll start by reading some guidelines for public comment. Then we'll move into the public comments that we received via voicemail. And I've received 5 public comment cards from people in the room tonight, and I will call you up to the table individually at the appointed time. So the Hopkins School Board strongly believes that hearing from our community members is crucial for implementing Vision 2031. You always have the option to contact us via email or via phone, and of course, we welcome public comment at our board meetings, both through voicemail and in person. We will host 2 public comment periods per meeting. The first period will be now during open agenda at the beginning of the meeting, during which the board will only hear public comments related to items on the agenda for this meeting. The comment period will be a maximum of 30 minutes long. Speakers will be heard on a first-come, first-served basis. The second period will be at the end of the meeting, prior to adjournment. During this period, the board will hear public comment on items not on the agenda. This period will also be a maximum of 30 minutes long. Speakers will be heard on a first-come, first-served basis. If there are more than 10 people who wish to comment during public during each public comment period, up to 5 voicemails will be played in the order that they were received. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Please keep in mind that public comment is for input only. This is not a question and answer session, a time for debate, or a dialogue session. We host plenty of engagement sessions throughout the school year, and we invite you to join us at those. Members of the school board will not respond directly to public comments that are made at this meeting. No specific action will be taken at this meeting in response to comments that are made about items that are not on the agenda or issues that are raised during the public comment period. If the board determines that action is appropriate, the action will occur at a future board meeting. A district representative may follow up with you after the meeting. I will recognize one speaker at a time. Only those speakers who are recognized will be permitted to speak. Individuals who interfere with or interrupt speakers, the board, or the proceedings may be directed to leave. Personal attacks on any individual, including any other speaker during the public comment session, are unacceptable, as are obscenities or profanity. Persistence in making such remarks will end the individual's opportunity to address the board and may result in the individual being directed to leave. I will rule out of order any statement that would violate state or federal law, school board policy, or the privacy rights of an individual. Minnesota's open meeting law prohibits the discussion of private educational data during an open meeting. Accordingly, during the public comment session, no person may discuss private educational data on an identifiable student. The open meeting law also requires the board to close a meeting for preliminary consideration of allegations against an employee. Accordingly, community members who have concerns about an employee or want to file a complaint are encouraged to contact the superintendent directly. Repeated violations of these time, place, and manner restrictions may also lead to the meeting being briefly recessed. Community members will have an opportunity to be heard within the limits of the law and subject to the time, place, and manner restrictions I've outlined above. So with all of that in mind, we'll start with our voicemail public comments that we received before 4 p.m. today, the day of the meeting. And the first commenter did not leave her name, so we'll start with Christina. I should say she did not leave her last name. She did leave her first name, which is Christina.
Hi, Christina.
On the subject of masks, I wanted to state that I fully
We're good? Okay. So now we'll hear a comment from Christina.
My name is Christina, and I have an upcoming first grader who is really excited for the upcoming school year. On the subject of masks, I wanted to state that I fully support masking of everyone in the schools to protect the health of those under the district's care during the school day. My daughter has been wearing a mask all summer at Kids and Company and does not mind continuing this practice. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Yen Chi.
Hi, my name is Yen Chi, and I'm a parent of 2 children in the Hopkins School District, and I just wanted to let you know my support for a mask mandate just to help keep all these students healthy and in school. So I hope that you would consider making sure that they are all masked and safe, just as a precaution, at least until they are able to be vaccinated. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jesse Doty.
I'm calling in support of the mask mandate proposed by the Hopkins superintendent. I'm hoping that the school board will support it. I am a father of 2 elementary age students in Hopkins, and I believe it's important that we protect all of our kids as much as possible. I also think it's essential to have them back in the classroom. I don't believe we can do that safely without masks. So please support the mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Tony Erickson Doty.
Hi there. My name is Tony Erickson Doty. Actually, wanted to call and just voice my support for the mask mandate that has been proposed for Hopkins schools this fall. I have 2 kids who are going to be attending Alice Smith this year, one of which we kept home for distance learning last year because of asthma, and we are so hopeful that they can both be back in the school this year. And one of those things that's going to make it possible is by having a mask policy. We are incredibly concerned with the new Delta variant going around, and we're seeing an increase in COVID cases, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. And it feels like it's just the right thing to do right now as we head into the school year. And so I am very, very hopeful that you guys will approve the masking policy that's been laid out by our superintendent, and just hope that you'll follow those recommendations of the CDC, AAP, MDH, MDE, and just keep our kids as safe as possible for this upcoming school year. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Again, this is Tony Erickson Doty, 2 kids going into Alice Smith, 1 in kindergarten, and 1 going into 2nd grade. My number is 9.
Thank you. And our last voicemail is from Jiming Zhao.
Hello, this is Jiming Zhao. I have going to be a 1st grader going to Xinqing Academy. I'm calling about the COVID-19 protocol, and especially the vote to mandate masks. And I just really hope that the school board approves the recommendation. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's one of the only things we can do to protect our children and teachers and staff before full vaccination is possible. So I really hope that we follow the science and we do the right thing. So thank you so much for your time and consideration, and look forward to hearing about the outcome.
Thank you. And thank you for your help, John and Elise. So next we'll move to our in-person public comment. As I stated, I received 5 public comment cards before the meeting, and I'll call commenters up in the order that I received the cards. I will also keep my timer going here, and I will let you know when you've approached 3 minutes for your comment. So first, we'd like to invite Ellie Kretz to the table.
What'd you say?
Make yourself comfortable.
Good evening, Chair Bouchard, esteemed directors of the school board, student reps, Dr. Mary Puri Reed, and other attendees. My name is Ellie Kretz, and I'm a Hopkins parent. My daughter Zoe is entering first grade next year at Jingxing Academy after a year of distance learning. I asked Zoe if she had any questions or worries about going to school after being gone so long. She replied, quote, "No, because everyone's going to mask and that protects me until I can get vaccinated," unquote. She understands this because when the pandemic started, we explained to her that it was necessary to mask to protect the oldest members of the population until they could be vaccinated. Now we need to mask for our youngest members of the population. I'm here today to ask you to vote in favor of the universal masking across all grades over 2 years old in Hopkins. While I know the number one thing we can do is to be vaccinated, our youngest community members are not yet eligible. It appears that vaccination is still months away for our kids that are 12 and under. So with that fact in hand, the science tells us that the best thing we can do for our unvaccinated members in schools is to layer the prevention strategies, including masking, social distancing, ventilation, and hand washing. With our positivity rate today in Minnesota above 5% for the first time since April, this is not the time to reduce our measures. According to the CDC website, quote, "Due to the circulating and highly contagious Delta variant, the CDC recommends universal indoor masking by all students ages 2 and older, staff, teachers, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status," unquote. According to Dr. Richard Corsi, an internationally recognized expert in the field of indoor air quality, even if everyone is wearing a relatively mediocre mask, so not an N95, universal masking gives you a 64% reduction in inhalation dose. We do not get this reduction if we don't all mask. And I'm sure you're going to hear tonight from people who oppose the masks in this meeting. While we may disagree on masking, I'm sure we can agree that kids need to be in school. Science shows us that masks keep our kids in schools, limiting closures and quarantines. If the goal is to keep kids and staff safe and in school, masks must be worn by everyone, ages 2 and above. I realize that people are tired of the pandemic. I am tired of the pandemic. My family is tired of the pandemic, but the virus does not care that we are tired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll invite Carrie Woolman to the table.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't have a prepared speech. I wasn't even sure if we were going to be able to talk. So,
Hmm.
but so I have a 7th grader starting at West. I'm asking that you allow the parents to make the choice on wearing the mask. Just as I sat here, I watched every single person touch their mask 3 or 4 times, mess with the mask. Hands are dirty, masks are dirty. Kids don't wear them appropriately. They take them off. They put them on the lunch table. They put them on the desk. They touch their face. They go to the bathroom. This isn't protecting them from getting sick. Kids get sick. And for me, I feel like, you know, as parents, you guys send out all of these surveys every year. We're inundated with surveys giving us a choice. You're not giving us a choice. And all I'm asking is, I want a choice for my kid. She doesn't want to wear a mask. She went back in January, forced to wear a mask. Then goes right to basketball, right after school. So she's in a mask 10 hours a day. Kids, I'm sorry, I just think it's completely unacceptable. No kid should have to sit there and, you know, and then it's like they're talking, and they got to put the mask down or they're talking louder. It's just, I mean, just sitting here, we all have eye contact. We can't see our facial expressions. We can't talk. We can't smile. We can't share the stuff that kids need to be able to share. I understand that there are health concerns, and I'm completely aware of those. And I am not saying that that I don't respect the people that want to wear a mask. I just want you guys to send out a survey like you do with everything else, or a form that tells us that we can opt out of it. I just want a choice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll invite Jessica Shortle to the table.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate what you're doing. My name's Jessica Shortall. I have a third grader entering third grade in Chinching and a sixth grader at Eisenhower. And I'm here to support the policy of students and faculty and staff wearing masks. As we know, this is a new virus, which means we're always learning and adjusting. That doesn't mean that the recommendations in science were wrong. That's what science is, and I hope that's what our kids are learning in science class. The most credible current science tells us, as a previous speaker said, that a layered approach creates the most protection for individuals and for the community. So that's vaccination, masks, distancing, ventilation, cleaning, hygiene. Of course, with our youngest learners up through sixth grade, the vast majority don't have vaccination as an option right now. My son has begged me to get him into the trial. And distancing is a challenge in school, as we know. So that means that the remaining layered measures become all the more crucial to keep in place. All while we're facing a much more contagious Delta variant. We don't know what variants might come after it. Rising pediatric cases, including some very severe, as well as concerns for, continued concerns for faculty and staff and older members of the community. So just appreciate you all voting on this and urge you to adopt it, and to not create any medically unnecessary loopholes, because then that's not a policy at all. It just means that folks will make their own decisions, and could lead to very high numbers of opt-outs. Of course, there are some people who have medical reasons significant and credible to need an adjustment, and I totally respect that. I know that people will disagree about this, and many other big and small decisions that you all make every school year. I think the key difference with this decision is that our kids and teachers go to school every day together. So what we do impacts all of us. This is not, public health is public, it's not individual. My kids cannot take a return to virtual school. This past year was very, very hard on them, socially, emotionally, academically, in basically every way imaginable.